Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up.
It's about seeking truth. It's about speaking truth. It's about keeping it real. That's what we do at Truth Seeker Nation. We keep it 100. Real talk all the time. Let's get it.
What's going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Truth Seeker Nation podcast. My name is Tawana, and I am your host. Today, I have a lot I want to talk to you about, and I wanted to build a foundation. I want to talk about something at the beginning that's going to get me to the topic I actually want to talk about. And it's going to seem irrelevant at first, but be patient, stick with it, and it will all come together in the end, I promise. Last week, we were talking about our parents, the government, those who are in this position of authority over us, governing us at this time. Now, it's clear that this is being used as an analogy or an example just to demonstrate how similar the roles are. But there is obviously a clear distinction. If we were fortunate, we would have grown up with parents that actually loved us or love us, okay? Obviously, that cannot be said about those in this position of governing us. But when it comes to our parents, that would mean that the rules and the boundaries that they put in place would have been there not to control and dictate to us, but they would have been there for our protection and for our benefit because they were coming from a place of love. Not only would there have been rules in place that were for our benefit, there also would have been some development going on within the household. Our parents would have been attempting to build within us certain qualities that would make us become who we were supposed to be as an adult. In essence, they would have been developing a sense of autonomy. We've been talking about this word in a couple ways because this is obviously the natural progression for us as human beings. This is what we do in relation to our parents. We grow up and we move out and we become self governing. Okay. But in relation to this government, which is the other way we've been talking about it, we are subservient to it and we need to become autonomous. Okay. But another way that we're going to talk about this today is autonomy in child development. Autonomy is a person's ability to be self sufficient, acting on their own desires, values, and interests. Autonomy in child development has many benefits, and here are some of the benefits: developed sense of self, improved confidence, command over their minds and bodies, critical thinking support, self motivation, and increased responsibility. So, ways that the parents develop autonomy within their children would be when they're teaching and allowing them to do things for themselves, making it to where they're becoming self sufficient. So, using the restroom on their own, brushing their teeth, tying their own shoes, putting on their clothes, cleaning their room. And not only would there be things that the child does, but they would also be allowing the child to make certain decisions. So, in addition to learning to dress themselves, they may also be allowed to make the decision about what they want to wear, for example. But of course, there's levels to this. Obviously, as parents, we know that this develops and increases based on the child's maturity level. But ultimately, we should all understand how this works and why it's necessary because the child needs to develop into his or her self and be who they are supposed to be. There are times when some parents can be a little overbearing, right? And they're not developing this autonomy in the child appropriately. The parents might dictate what the child does, not allowing them to be free enough to make their own decisions, or they may criticize them too much. Whatever they do that restricts the child from expressing themselves, asserting who they are. So, this can have many negative effects as the child grows up because remember, this is setting the foundation for who they will become as an adult. So, if the child doesn't develop this sense of self, this confidence, have this critical thinking, this is going to affect the quality of their lives. And if they don't develop the trust in their own ability to care for themselves adequately and make certain decisions, you can imagine how this will extend outward. If they don't trust themselves and their ability to make decisions, how will they trust others? Okay, this is a big part of development. Now, of course, this is not all that is goes into them trusting others or people trusting one another. There's more to it than just that, but this is a part of that, okay? Let's think about our parents, this government, these people that are playing this role. Now, of course, they don't have the desire to instill these qualities in us. We're already adults. So their role is not to develop autonomy within us because that's just not the nature of the beast, right? It's just there to dictate and to govern us. But you can see how it's meant to stifle and meant to keep us contained. Because if these traits that I mentioned are what come from autonomy, those that are instilled in us as children, then you can see how we're stifled as adults to become who we're supposed to be because we are not developing a sense of self. We're not developing this confidence or this critical thinking or this increased responsibility because we're under a system that is dictating everything for us. And I know that people will not understand where I'm going with that or not agree because they feel like they make their own decisions. The government doesn't make my decisions. I work where I want. I go to school where I want. They don't decide these things for me. But when you consider how connected these people are in almost every single area that you can think of, you're either asking permission or keeping them informed about what, how, why, when you're doing something. You're regularly having to pay certain fees and renew documents. And if you have licenses, you have to keep them informed. And you have children, you need to keep them informed, put your children in their schools or notify them if you decide you don't want to put them in school. If you decide to homeschool them, you have to keep them updated with that. You have to notify them of how much money you make so you can pay their taxes. And the list goes on. Okay. This is all a part of this oversight, and you can't really escape it. I mean, after all, your social security number follows you wherever you go. So they can always keep tabs on you and know what you're doing. Right. And obviously there's ways around this. You can do an EIN number and use that. You put things underneath businesses and kind of do move a little bit differently in the system, but you still have to report to them. You still have to keep them informed, even if you're using that EIN number, even if you're creating that trust or whatever you're doing, you're still having to, it's still being governed. And there's still rules attached to this. You always, I mean, everything that you can do. You're never in a position where you're fully self sufficient and fully making your own decisions from beginning to end and able to show that you're capable of doing that because you always have to answer to someone. There is no trust. You're not developing any trust in your own ability to do anything within within this system because you never have the opportunity to do that. And before I move on to the next aspect of this that I want to talk about, I have a couple questions for you. First, who are you? And second, what do you believe your role is in this world? I believe that part of our problem, individually and collectively, is that we are not asking the right questions. Not only that, we are looking for answers in the wrong place. So when I say, who are you and what are you supposed to be doing on this earth? I'm not referring to who you are in this man made world. And of course, when I say man, I mean like mankind, right? Not just men, men and women made it. But I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about what type of job you work, how much money you make, what type of degrees you have, because that does not define who you are as a being. I'm talking about beyond this system. Because we cannot continue to believe that we are limited to the things that mankind, has been able to create. If man did not put us here, we got here by some other means. I mean, that many people do not really know. People may think they know and they have beliefs about what it is, but up till now, they haven't gotten the proof to show that those beliefs are correct as of yet. So ultimately, they're still just beliefs. Talking about what we know, okay, not what we believe, what we know is that no other human beings put us here outside of our parents, of course, but they're just the vessels that were used to get us here. But ultimately, that created life or that caused life to be into, however else we would have gotten here. Because this reproductive system was already in place in our parents. So it really wasn't them, right? So that's one thing we know. No other human beings put us here. And also, we are intelligently designed. So whatever or whomever put us here had to have some intelligence. And to be limiting ourselves about who we are and who we think we are and what we think we're supposed to be doing, limiting that to what we as humans have been able to come up with is a part of the problem. Because a lot of times we're looking for the meaning to life in these man made institutions, this system that was already here before we even were even born, that had everything built into it. Like all of the roles that we could possibly play was already built in. The doctors, the lawyers, the firefighters, the inventors, the musicians, the athletes, the president. It's all built into the system. Okay. And people are born here and as children are asked, well, what do you want to be? What do you want to do with your life? And then we're just picking within this system. This cannot be all that we are or all that we're supposed to be doing. Thinking about this is very important. If we're not considering ideas like this, humanity will never become who we are supposed to be. So, when I'm talking about autonomy, this sense of self and this self reliance, I'm talking about on another level. Most of you, I'm sure, have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? This pyramid that talks about our needs and our desires. So at the bottom, it has the physiological needs, then it goes to safety, then love and belonging, esteem, and at the very top, self actualization. Now, this is what I ultimately wanted to get us to be able to talk about this idea of self actualization, which means the desire to become the most one can be. Now, when you do research into this hierarchy of needs, you'll find that there's not a whole lot of research or information about self actualization because most humans do not make it this far. Not only do they not make it that far, they don't even think of self actualization because the way the system of needs works is that you have to meet the needs below it in order for you to even aspire to the needs or desires above it. Okay. But so let's go over it briefly in a little bit more detail. So we started off at the bottom, as I said, the physiological needs, which would be things like your basic necessities like air, water, food, and shelter. Then you go up to safety, which would be things like personal security and property. Then love and belonging, friendship and family. The next one is esteem, which has respect, strength, and freedom. And then at the very top, self actualization. Now, if you notice in esteem, a couple of things that it mentions is respect and freedom. First, respect is something that is developed. In order to have respect for others, we first need to have respect for ourselves. And part of developing respect for ourselves comes from our foundational beliefs about who and what we are, right? And what we're capable of. This comes from beliefs that are instilled in us in our childhood. Yes, they can be developed later on in life, but it starts there. And remember, one of the qualities that autonomy teaches is self reliance, faith in your own abilities, trust in yourself to be able and capable of making your own decisions. So, as children, we would hopefully have been given the opportunity to become this way. If you never get that, if you never even have the ability to demonstrate that, then your level of respect for yourself is going to be diminished. Now, as adults, we are not getting this opportunity. If there is this feeling or this sense of, I can't even govern myself because that's what it is. This is the way the system is set up. We're made to believe that we are not capable of doing this. And as in addition, an extension of that is that others are not capable of doing this. So, how can we have a self reliance on ourselves and then a genuine respect that comes from that if we don't even feel capable of doing that, or we don't feel like we're able to govern ourselves, whether this is a conscious or unconscious thought? Now, this doesn't mean that we don't have any respect for ourselves, okay? Don't misunderstand me. But we also don't know the level of respect that would be developed if we were put in this position to show that we can actually do this. Okay? And then the other one that I wanted to talk about in this esteem section was freedom. This is another aspect of it. We definitely know that we are not free if we are on a leash as it relates to other people. We have to answer to people. There is no way around it. We're always answering to somebody in some way. It may not be in their face in person, but in some way. And this is why, in my opinion, it is so difficult to reach self actualization. Don't even mention the people, not even getting up to that place of esteem, like not even having their lower needs met, like their basic necessities. But even in esteem, this part right before self actualization, we still have to have these other aspects met or developed within ourselves in order for us to move up to that next level. And how can we truly become the most we are supposed to become or even aspire to that if we don't have the ability to even be who we're supposed to be? We're not even in the position to demonstrate that. We're being contained in this system, we're being stifled. Okay. Just like I mentioned earlier, people are measuring their worth on the different levels that they can reach within this man made or human made system. What education they can get, what degrees, what credentials, what training, how much money. These are all man made. And if we are not man made beings, how can that be the pinnacle of what we are able to reach? If we're going to become the most that we can be individually and collectively, we have to start looking for answers in the right places. Okay. And it is not in this system. This system is not meant to benefit us. It is not meant to get us to that next level, whatever that next level is. When we were at home with our parents, that is exactly what they were doing. They were getting us to that next level of becoming an adult, right? And moving out of their home, which when we did that, that is when we discovered really who we are and what we wanted, right? That's when we figured out what we were capable of. And sometimes our parents might have even had certain expectations for us or had us in a box, maybe things that they wanted us to do, direction that they wanted us to go in our life. But when we got out on our own, we decided what we wanted, what direction we wanted to go in, right? So there's a lot of self discovery that comes. So, my point in saying all of that is you can see that the arrangement was loving for our parents to do that, to put us on this path to further discover who we were supposed to be as an adult and give us the tools to be able to get into a position of being able to actually live that out. Okay. But then we're in this situation now where we are not able to do that on another level because human beings are not just what we see around us. This is not all that we are. We don't even know how we got here. Okay. So the picture is probably a lot bigger than what we're seeing. And we're not even trying to discover that if we just thinking only within the confines of this system that we're currently in. We need to start thinking outside of that and realizing that whatever our purpose is probably a lot bigger than what we have going on. And if there is a system in place that is kind of just dictating and controlling and keeping us contained, then perhaps that system is not meant for our benefit. So we have to start, as I state many times, reconsidering our beliefs, reconsidering what it is that we're doing and whether it's what we are supposed to continue to do. And on that note, I'm going to go ahead and leave you with that. And I hope that you all enjoyed this and that you have a wonderful week. And I will talk to you again soon.
Wake up.
It's about seeking truth. It's about speaking truth. It's about keeping it real. That's what we do at Truth Seeker Nation. We keep it 100. Real talk all the time. Let's get it.